What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? This is another edition of Sports 360. I'm Jeff Fennell, and I'm here with Rob Duran of Rob Duran Sports. Rob, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing well too. Doing well. We just came off what I think was one of the best weekends of NFL playoffs that I've ever seen. I mean, we talking about four fantastic games that went down to the wire, and it was some of the best football that I've seen in a long time, and it was back to back to back to back. It was great, man.
It was. And each game got better, which is insane to think. And up until that last game, like your emotions were riding high after the first game. And then the next game would show up, and then the next and the next. It was, wow, man. I agree. Probably one of the best playoff weekends, maybe in any sport, that we've experienced in a while.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And man, let's just jump right into it. I mean, we made our picks on these games, and we both went 2-2. Um, and we both had the Bengals, and we both. I think that was it. After that, we were different, right? I mean, oh no, we both lost on the Packers.
Yeah.
We both lost on the Packers. You picked the Rams over the Buccaneers in what was really a wild game too. And then I had Chiefs over the Bills. So we both were 2-2 overall. This postseason, you're 7-3, but I'm right on your neck. So you cannot take your foot off the gas because I'm 6-4. I'm right behind you. So you better watch out because I'm coming this week. And you know what it says. The object in this mirror, they're closer than they appear. So you better watch out because I'm right on you. But
Hey, let's do it.
okay. So but before we do that though and get into the championship games, let's get into Bengals Titans. And I'm gonna let you go first on this game because I know your man Joe Burrow. That's your guy. And so um take us through, Bengals Titans a little bit.
Joe did what Joe does, man. He's just the coolest guy in the NFL, coolest guy on the field. I'm scared to death though of that O line because my God, I think he was sacked 9 times. That can't keep happening, man. He can't not keep
Nah.
getting hit. Um, you know, luckily he doesn't get rattled. It seems like even when he's getting hit, but those hits have to stop, man. And yeah, he did what he had to do. He didn't throw any touchdowns in the game, but he also didn't. He helped the team win instead of helping the Titans win the game. So he moves on, luckily. I didn't think Derrick Henry had the game that I expected him to have, which is probably why the Bengals won the game. So that kind of helped a little bit there. But listen, man, Joe Cool, that's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the sacks. I mean, he did get, sacked 9 times. He was always under pressure. Look, Tennessee has one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they can get after the quarterback. And Cincinnati has a leaky front line, offensive line. So that was a bad combination going into the game. And as far as Derrick Henry, I didn't expect much from him. He had been out for too long. And I think to expect him to come back and be vintage Henry, King Henry, it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen. And I actually thought Foreman should have played a little bit more because he seemed
Mm,
to be playing at a different speed than everybody else.
yeah.
And they gave him the ball a few times. And when they did, he was very effective. But look, I thought that Cincinnati played tough, and they had to because Tennessee's a tough team. And as you said, Burrow didn't throw any touchdowns, but he didn't lose them the game. But the quarterback on the other team, I
Hmm.
think he did help lose the game for the Titans. I thought Tannehill did not play a good game. Um, I wasn't impressed with him coming in, which was one of the reasons why I picked Cincinnati. But he threw 3 interceptions. And that last one that led to the, game-winning field goal was just a poor decision, trying to jam a ball in and deflected, got picked, and ball game.
Yeah, and I think maybe the ineffectiveness of Tannehill had to do a little bit with the ineffectiveness of Derrick Henry to a degree. Maybe the Titans themselves thought coming in, all right, we got our guy back. Now let's rely on him. And they gave him 20 carries. And like you said, Foreman only had 4 carries. And I think he should have gotten the ball a lot more, maybe split those carries. But I think that pressure then fell on Tannehill to be a game saver instead of continuing to be the game manager type quarterback that he is. And it didn't happen.
Yeah, because he is when he's at his best, he manages the game. But when you have to try to win the game with him, that doesn't happen. But there were some questionable play calls too when they turned it over on downs, like midway through the fourth quarter. They
Mm,
first tried a sneak with Tannehill, which went nowhere, and then Derrick Henry. They gave it was like a slow developing play, and the guy got hit in the backfield.
yeah.
And they turned the ball over on downs. Now they got the ball back, but you know, it just seemed to me that Tennessee, their defense was really, really good, but their offense was not. And Bengals move on. Thrilling game, 19-16 with a walk off field goal. And that kicker is something else, right? McPherson. I
Yeah,
mean, he's
McPherson.
oof, and he's a
Rookie.
rookie.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So the Bengals move on to the AFC Championship game, and they will face the Chiefs in Arrowhead, and we'll talk about that game in a minute. And your man Joe Burrow, aka Macaulay Culkin, because that's exactly what he looked like. Home Alone to me, man. That's
He does.
he, he looked like he waiting for Marv and them to come through the building so he can put up all his traps and stuff.
He's gonna
But
need to with that offensive line, man.
yeah, he gonna need to do something going up in Arrowhead. He better bring all his little gadgets and the paint and all the stuff that Macaulay Culkin uses, man. He better bring it to Arrowhead because he's gonna need
Yeah.
everything in that game. But before getting to that, Packers and the 49ers. 49ers won the game 13-10, again on a walk-off field goal. And I'm going to tee this one up by just reading a note that I had that came from last week that said from someone, Aaron Rodgers throw 5 TDs and a couple of quotes of the 49ers have no chance. And I recall saying, yeah, they have no chance. And you said 0. And you said the score would be 44-13. So you did get it right that the 49ers would have 13 points. Where you went astray was that the Packers scored 34 fewer points than you thought they were going to score. So,
I, I don't
what
remember
what
saying that.
you don't remember?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, I do, and we could just go back to the tape. But in any event, I mean, this was a good game as well. Really interesting. Couple of things. One, 49ers won the opening toss and they deferred, which seems to be what too many teams do. And I think sometimes, you want to have your offense kind of set the tone for the day. And it seemed as if when Green Bay took that opening kickoff and marched right down the field and scored what turned out to be their only touchdown, it seemed that the 49ers had made a mistake. Green Bay had the momentum. Crowd was going wild. It was 7-0. And it was like, okay, Green Bay's off to the races. But that didn't happen. Were you surprised? We all know San Francisco has a tough defense, but were you surprised at how effectively they shut down the Packers?
I was, man. Maybe I was a little going a little crazy saying 5 touchdowns, but for Aaron Rodgers to have no touchdowns in an entire game in the playoffs at home. And then on top of that, the weather wasn't great, but it's tailor made for the Green Bay Packers team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was shocked to see that they just couldn't muster any offense at all. At all. Incredible.
No. And, for me, there were 2 huge plays in that game. There were many important plays and good plays on the defense, and Deebo Samuel was just I was getting concerned for him, quite frankly, because they
Yeah.
had him running kickoffs, they had him in the backfield, they had him, coming around on sweeps from the wide receiver spot, they had him going over the middle. I mean, they put him in the teeth of everything, and he was taking a pounding, and so I was concerned about him. But he played a fantastic game. But there were 2 plays, Rob, that stood out for me. One was at the end of the first half where, it seemed as if after San Francisco called a timeout because they thought they were gonna get the ball back from the Packers, and the Packers got a big play to now put themselves in field goal range. And, one of the secondary men, his last name, I think, was Ward. They showed him that he blew a coverage, right? And it allowed I don't know if it was Devontae Adams or it was someone else to get deep. And now they were in field goal range. And it was 7-0 at the time. And he's saying, okay, now it's going to be 10-0. And that felt like that could have been a 20-point lead, given the conditions and everything else. But then Ward came back and made amends for himself by blocking the field goal.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a huge play because it kept it a one possession game. So I thought that was a huge play. Then obviously the in the second half, the blocked punt by Willis that led to the tying touchdown by Green Bay, which really stunned that crowd because even though it was only 10-3, it really felt like the Packers were in control of that game.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then when that block punt and then the game was tied, it went from, "Oh, we're gonna win this game," to, "Uh-oh, we may lose this game." You felt it throughout the stadium, you felt it on television. So I thought those were 2 huge plays in that game, and both of them obviously on special teams.
Yeah. And speaking of special teams, it's funny because with the NFL, that third phase of games is normally forgotten. And Green Bay is one team that kind of forgot that special teams existed because they were bad all season, their special team squad.
Mm,
Um, and it kind of showed here in the playoffs as well. But when a team makes a play, a big play on special teams, it electrifies that entire team so much. Like we talk about, like if Mahomes throws a 60-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill or something like that, that's energizing. But a play on special teams it's a different type of like a different type of electricity that runs through the team, and the 49ers showed it, man. Those 2 huge plays, difference makers.
yeah, they really were, and, even after it was tied, you thought, "Okay, the ball's coming back, Aaron Rodgers has it, he's gonna move them down the field," but then he didn't. And then, Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle, and of course, Debo Samuel start making plays.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're like, wait a minute. San Francisco's is in field goal range. And they won it on a walk-off field goal by Robbie Gould in 13-10. And they're off to the NFC championship game. And hats off to them. They earned that game, Rob. They
They
earned
did.
that game. They gave up that early touchdown and they gave up nothing else, made some big plays on special team and made just enough plays to win the game. And now they move on. And no crying in the milk for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe now he can work on maybe getting a better Rodgers rate from State Farm. He has some time to negotiate that, you know what I mean? But um yeah, he's done. And obviously, there's going to be some questions about his future, whether he's coming back to Green Bay or not. But for right now, we leave that alone. And hats off to the 49ers for knocking these guys off, man.
Yeah, a well-earned victory, man. And listen, going into the playoffs, the 49ers were that team like everyone was talking about um, as underdogs almost, almost disrespecting them. And they've earned their respect, I think, especially after this game. And I think people need to start looking out for this team as a serious Super Bowl contender. So we'll see what they do next week, but they're a really good team.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Okay, so then the third game, which was the first game on Sunday, Rams and Buccaneers. And the Rams had a 27-3 lead, and they end up winning the game 30-27 on a walk-off field goal. And that 27-3 lead was like midway through the third quarter, maybe even toward the tail end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
And they nearly literally coughed this game up with multiple fumbles that just turned this game around 27-27. And it seemed like the Rams were looking to give this game away, Rob. You know what I mean? And Tom Brady was doing Tom Brady things, but it was a questionable, in my mind, defensive call that led to Cooper Cup getting that catch that put them in position to win the game. And, the field goal kicker came on, knocked it through, and the Rams survived. But man, in so many ways, the Rams nearly coughed that game up.
Yeah, and I don't know how Cooper Cup was that open, man. That's their best receiver by far. Well, not by far. OBJ's pretty darn good. And I think he's proved it that he wasn't the issue in Cleveland. But you can't leave Cooper Cup undetected like that, for especially towards the end of a game. But I'll tell you what, when I saw the score, I was like, I don't know, this is Tom Brady when they were down. I don't know, this is Tom Brady. I don't think this game is over yet. And they made that strong comeback. And man, I thought the Buccaneers were going to win. And I almost found myself, believe it or not, Jeff, I picked the Rams to win this game. I almost found myself rooting for Tom Brady to make the comeback and complete it and win the game. Because I said, if this guy does it, age 44, does what he did a few years ago to the Falcons in the Super Bowl, and come back, incredible. But that's why he's the GOAT, because he's able to do that with the team, despite the odds. But good for the Rams. And listen, Matthew Stafford, again, no turnovers, no interceptions, which has been the big thing for him towards the end of the season. And the one thing I'm telling you, he's listening to me, Jeff. I told him no interceptions in the playoffs, and you will win. And so far, so good. So I take credit for his success.
Okay, you can take credit for a success. That's fair enough. It's funny, because we, had opposite picks in this game, and it's funny to hear you say that even though you picked the Rams, as Tampa was making its comeback, you were rooting in some ways for Brady, and I picked Tampa, and as Tampa was making its comeback, I was rooting for the Rams because I did not want the Rams to lose that game because they deserved to win the game. Now, if they had lost it, they would have deserved to lose it, but they had outplayed the Buccaneers pretty much that whole game, and for them to go out and then lose that game would have been a travesty. So, even though I did not pick the Rams in the end, I was glad that they did win that game, and now they're in the NFC Championship, and the 49ers are up next, and they will be playing in Los Angeles. Should be a great game. We'll get to that in a second. But first, we have to get to the last game of the weekend where the Kansas City Chiefs in overtime beat the Buffalo Bills 42-36 in one of the greatest games, period, I've ever seen.
Period. Yes.
And in terms of postseason games, the greatest postseason game I've ever seen. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen were simply fantastic. Uh, Everything lived up to the billing. We called these guys gunslingers last week, right? And
Yes.
and they lived up to it. Fantastic game. The last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, where 25 points were scored, and Patrick Mahomes getting the ball back with 13 seconds, um, and on two pass plays, getting Kansas City in position to kick the game. I mean, to kick the field goal to tie the game to send it to overtime. Remarkable. Josh Allen was just great. Rob, one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Too bad Buffalo had to lose that game. No one should have lost that game. Just fantastic.
Man, it talk about a roller coaster. That those last, I don't know if ESPN still does like their ESPN classics. This one instant classic. I don't care what sport you watch, who you root for. This is one of the best games I've ever seen. Period, man. The Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, two of the young quarterbacks coming up. Listen, the NFL is in good hands. Brady can retire, Rodgers can retire, all these older guys can go. The NFL is in great hands with these two and a couple of the other younger guys. But man, they set the tone for their teams. They did not disappoint. Man, I don't even, I don't know what other words to say to describe how great those two quarterbacks are for their team. But I remember texting my friend towards the end of the quarter, and we're literally texting back and forth, and something happens every time one of us sends a text. And it was like, this game is that good. Like, it's such a roller coaster of emotions throughout this game. But the way Patrick Mahomes led that team with 13 seconds and then the execution in overtime to win it, incredible, man. It's like he said, listen, Josh, you're great, but I'm the guy. I'm number one here in the NFL. And wow, man. But kudos to Josh Allen because he played one heck of a game, nearly a flawless game, in my opinion. And it's unfortunate that he had to lose, but wow, great game, man.
Yeah, and don't forget about, Gabriel Davis, who had 4 touchdowns for the Bills,
Yeah,
playoff record, 200-yard game. And you really thought that the 4th touchdown, which came, ultimately with 13 seconds to go, was the game winner. And if there's anything that I believe the Bills will think about is the decision to kick the ball out of the end zone on the ensuing kickoff,
yep.
as opposed to a squib kick that would have forced Kansas City to perhaps use a second or 2 or 3 or 4 off the clock. I think if the Bills had to do it over again, they probably would have squibbed kick there, but they didn't, and so Patrick Mahomes had a full 13 seconds, and we now know that 13 seconds is too much time for Patrick Mahomes. Right? You can't
Way
you
too
can't
much.
leave that much time on the clock. Unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, because like you're saying, the squib kick might have dropped the clock down to what, maybe 9 seconds. You would think, knock 4 or 5 seconds off the clock. That makes a huge difference, and that may have been the difference between today's conversation where Buffalo is going home.
Yeah, yeah. So the Chiefs move on. They actually will host the first game of this coming weekend, the AFC Championship game against the Cincinnati Bengals, as Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase come in. And so let's get to our predictions. Again, you're 7-3. I'm 6-4. I'm coming after you. You want me to go first? So you don't think I'm just going to make picks just to go against you and everything? Because see, I'm convinced I'm going to catch you anyway.
Oh,
So I'll go first. I'm not going to wait for you to go, and then I'm just going to pick opposite that. I'll go first on both games. How about
all
that?
right, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, easy. First game, Chiefs. Chiefs gonna win by 2 touchdowns at least.
Wow.
But Kansas City's going to beat Buffalo. I think that not Buffalo, Cincinnati. I think that that offensive line of Cincinnati's is just not going to hold up. I think there'll be some big plays because Kansas City's defense was a little leaky last week too. But I think you have, I mean, how can you pick against Patrick Mahomes after what you just saw, right? And so I'm picking the Chiefs, and I think they win this one comfortably, and they win it by at least 2 touchdowns.
Wow. Well, in the NFL, especially the NFL, I don't believe in momentum as far as carrying the momentum because there's so much time that goes in between games and all this stuff. Anything can happen in practice weeks. But Mahomes proved he's cold-blooded, man. Dude has no nerves, ice in his veins. He just he's just spectacular. There's not many words. He's the best quarterback in the game. He proved it again. And with the team with a chance to make it to the Super Bowl again, especially after the showing last year, losing to Tampa, it's hard to pick against Mahomes, man. But listen, the Bengals O-line, it scares me. I'll say it again. Burrow cannot get sacked 9 times every game, and they expect to win. But he doesn't get rattled. He stays cool. I think their offense is one of the more prolific offenses in the game. And I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
Tie ball game. We're tied right there. Oh, we are tied right there. Listen,
I'm
I
going
like
with my
Joe Burrow.
man Burrow, man.
Okay, listen, I like Joe Burrow. I like him. I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and they were telling me, man, they didn't like Joe Burrow. They felt he had a chip on his shoulder. He had an attitude. I'm like, yeah, he has a chip on his shoulder, but he goes out there and he balls too. And I don't
Yeah.
have any problem with an athlete who's going to back it up having a chip on the shoulder. And his chip is like, it's like he didn't like his facial expressions and all the rest of that. He thinks he's too cool. Well, maybe Joe is too cool for school, but he goes out there and he does what he does, doesn't he? So I
Yes,
like
he
Joe
does.
Burrow. I like Joe Burrow. But again, he looks like Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't know if come Monday morning that Joe Burrow is going to be home alone. The homeboy
Mm.
going to be home. He ain't got no Super Bowl. He going to be home. That much I know. I don't know if he's home alone, but he's going to be home
We'll see.
because Mahomes
We'll
going to
see.
send him there.
We'll
Okay.
see.
All
Listen, I
right.
just can't
So
see. I just can't see Patrick Mahomes' brother keep doing TikTok dances on the sideline.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
can't
don't
keep
even want
saying
to
that.
talk. Yeah, I hear you on that, man. That's just yeah. But okay. Oh, I'm rubbing my hands together. You hear that? Tie ball game. Tie ball game. Okay, now I'm going for the lead. NFC Championship game. And I'm not going to hesitate. Your guy, Matthew Stafford, as you said, you told him don't make any turnovers in the postseason. He hasn't made any turnovers or, in the postseason had any turnovers. And they have won 2 playoff games, first 2 of his career. And they are now in the NFC Championship game, and they're hosting the game in Los Angeles. So, what can I tell you other than it ends now? 49ers are
Uh-oh.
going to beat the Rams and advance to the Super Bowl to play Patrick Mahomes. So, on
Ooh.
this one, the 49ers have their number. All I know is this. In 2 of their last 3 games, the Rams had a 17-0 lead on San Francisco, lost the lead, lost the game. Then they played a team that was ready to go home before the opening kickoff in the Arizona Cardinals, even though I picked them, and they beat them. And then they nearly coughed up a 24-point lead last week. So I see a team that, other than the Cardinals, they're playing a good team. They can't hold the lead. That doesn't bode well. San
Hmm.
Francisco takes this one. Jimmy Garoppolo does enough to not mess up stuff. And the 49ers are on their way to the Super Bowl.
All right. All right. Matthew Stafford is throwing 5. No, I'm just kidding.
The 49ers have no chance. Might as well try it again.
Man,
0. Say it
I'll tell
again.
you. I think the 49ers, listen, they're impressive. What they're doing defensively is impressive. What they're doing to not lose the game on offense is impressive. Deebo Samuel is a absolute stud, man. He's he plays everywhere. They put him in any position, he'll just do what he has to do. But I'm gonna keep going with Stafford, man. I'm gonna go with the Rams in this game. I think between Cup and OBJ, it's such a dynamic duo at the wide receiver position, and then they have the tight ends, also great players. I think the running game is going to be key in this game. They need to have the running game step up, which it didn't step up in the last game, but this game has to happen. They need the run game. I think the defense is going to make Jimmy Garoppolo dance a lot. Aaron Donald is coming for him. Von Miller is coming for him. And hopefully Jalen Ramsey in the backfield can do enough to slow down, whether it's, something with Kittle or with Deebo Samuel, something. But the Rams got this one. No predictions
Okay.
on how many touchdowns, though. I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Well, you mentioned how Patrick Mahomes' brother was dancing on the sideline. You talk about how the 49ers are going to have Jimmy Garoppolo dancing. While you were talking, I was dancing. I was doing my TikTok dance because it was a victory dance because I now have the lead in our head-to-head postseason prediction game. So I
Hmm.
was doing my dance. And as far as Von Miller, yeah, listen, he looked like that guy from Hootie and the Blowfish. That's who he is. What's that guy Darius, whatever? So nobody's afraid of him, right? And I know he got a couple sacks or he got a sack last week. Listen, 49ers. And I don't like the 49ers, but they're gonna beat the Rams, bro.
We'll
This is
see.
gonna be a good one.
Stafford. Listen, I got Stafford. That's my guy right now. He knows.
Okay.
No interceptions.
All right, so this is really going to be interesting. So in the first game, I'm going with the Chiefs at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. You're going with Cincinnati, and in the second game, I'm going with the 49ers on the road, and you're going with the Rams in the NFC Championship game. So should be a a great weekend of football. But I got to tell you, Rob, I don't. I cannot see, you know, anything topping this past weekend and what we just
No.
saw. But at the same time, I think that we're we're in line for two really good games coming up this weekend. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Yes.
Um, hey, real quickly, man, as we get ready to get on up out of here. Um, Tonight, as we're speaking on a Tuesday evening, right? Baseball Hall of Fame voting coming down. I think the expectation is David Ortiz will get in,
He's actually in.
but also he's in,
He's in. Yep.
and he
Re-
should be in. So congratulations to Big Poppy for his election to the Hall of Fame, and then Barry Bonds will be excluded again.
Yep.
And real quickly, my thoughts on that one: Bonds belongs in the Hall of Fame. And maybe we'll talk about that and revisit that on another show in more detail. But that's my take on it. What's your quick take on Barry Bonds and the Hall of Fame?
I've been saying it for years, Jeff. I've written articles on it when I started doing social media stuff. The man deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He is probably one of the greatest hitters, if not the greatest player, not just hitter, baseball player in the history of this game. And he should not be punished for stuff that was allowed and maybe in some cases encouraged. And there are a lot of people in the Hall of Fame who have done worse than what they're saying Barry Bonds has done or did, whatever the case may be. But Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in the Hall of Fame first ballot, if I'm being honest with you. There's no reason why this man is not in there. And it took him getting kicked off the ballot at this point because this is his last try on, and he's still not in there. It's a mistake by the writers. It's a travesty to the sport, and 100% do not agree with the decision to leave Barry Bonds out yet again.
I'm right there with you. He belongs in the Hall. Roger Clemens and Sammy Sosa also have had the doors shut on them, but Barry Bonds, um, clearly a Hall of Fame talent, and he belongs in the Hall. And we will see whether you know it's Veterans Committee or some other way that he gets in at some point. But you know, it's it's um, it's disappointing, and it's always been it's for years now. This has been
Yeah.
one of the more disappointing things in Major League Baseball. And again, we can talk about this in more detail, but as you alluded to, there are so many people who are in the hall who are avowed cheaters, right? And I'm not talking PEDs necessarily, whether it's spitballs or scuffing up balls. And then you have other people who have some questionable moral integrity, some outright racist individuals who are in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And so, for the writers to be sanctimonious on this one in this context with this player and his obvious talent and contributions to the game, give me a break. Barry Bonds belongs. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. So we'll leave it there for now. We will probably talk about this story again at some point. But the next time we get together, you will be looking up to me, Rob, because I will have overtaken you in our NFL postseason picks. So I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking
We'll
forward
see,
to it.
man. We shall see.
Yes, we will. Well, listen, brother, good talking with you again. And we look forward to the games this weekend and also look forward to coming back again next week to talk about the NFC Championship games and to make our predictions for the Super Bowl. But until then, be well and enjoy the games this weekend.
Thank you, brother. Take care.